What's up, guys? It's Lord Botha here for another video, and why is Witcher Season 4 happening? Because I've seen the poster here posted by Redanian Intelligence on Twitter, and wow, that looks bad. When they say he looks like Teemu Witcher, they really are not lying. Also, I don't understand why they still refuse to put the characters in just clothes that they wear in the games or are described in the books. Like this, it doesn't make any sense. And yes, I have also seen the Witcher 4 trailer, and there was literally nothing about it that looked good. The costuming didn't look good. It wasn't well acted. Yes, I know it was basically a combat scene, but even then, Liam Hemsworth looks terrible as Geralt. He looks like, as said, Teemu Witcher. The effects don't even look great. The set and ambiance doesn't feel good. Even the combat itself felt almost non-existent. Like, what the hell was that? And as you can see here from Nerdrotic, the Witcher 4 ratio has begun. Because yes, the trailer was ratioed. And guess what? When you go back to that trailer, the ratio, even worse. 80,000 dislikes to 24,000 likes as of right now. And I really can't understand why we're making a season 4. Why they seem to be just hell-bent on fulfilling this contract and going through with losing more money. Because there's no way that this show has made money. Why? Well, because of the exorbitant cost of the show. It's not as bad as Rings of Power in terms of being a money pit, but it's damn near close. And this comes to us from Forbes, entitled Netflix Equips The Witcher with $319 million budget. And in the article, it states that Netflix has revealed that it spent $318.7 million on making the first 2 seasons of The Witcher and the prequel series. And we're going to get to that prequel series in just a second, because you forgot that they made a prequel to The Witcher, right? Playing off that article, we have this from winteriscoming.net, in which it states Netflix spent over $300 million on first 2 seasons of The Witcher and Blood Origins. That's right, that's just the first 2 seasons and the prequel series, not even counting the 3rd season. And in the article, it states that reportedly the cost of season 1 was $92.1 million total to produce, or around $11.5 million per episode. Netflix was able to get a reimbursement of $7.1 million through those tax breaks that were mentioned earlier. Yes, they got tax breaks for filming wherever the hell they filmed, probably London. I didn't even look. But it's common that these companies, Netflix, Disney, whatever, they go to places where they know they're going to get tax breaks to film there. It's one of the many reasons people don't film in Hollywood anymore. It's too expensive. The article goes on to state that season 2 was produced by a different Netflix subsidiary, Thetford Productions, and cost almost double the first. The studio spent $176 million on season 2, or about $22 million per episode. $22 million per episode, or around $16.6 million of the budget went to salaries, and there were quite a lot of them to pay in season 2, since the show's staff, including actors, rose to 143 members. Because if you didn't guess, fantasy epic series tend to be expensive because you got a lot of extras you gotta pay to be red shirts, to be army members. You can't just have massive green screens, especially in an era when people want more realistic and sort of old school style of having real actors portray the armies and not just be CGI fests. And guess what? The Witcher tends to have a lot of characters in it. Anyone who's read the books or played the video games knows that it is chock full of characters. Very rich, very expansive characters. The tax reimbursement was more than 3 times higher than season 1. Netflix got it back around $36.5 million. Again, when you compare that to what they spent, that's pennies on the dollar. They're still spending money hand over fist. So all told, Netflix spent $268.4 million in total on the first 2 seasons of The Witcher, but that's still shy of the $318 million we stated. That's where Blood Origins comes in. Ah yes, the horrific prequel series. The article states that The Witcher Blood Origin cost Netflix more than $50 million before post-production. According to the report, Netflix spent $50.3 million on The Witcher Blood Origin, and remember, that number doesn't include post-production. Blood Origin is around 2.5 hours long across its 4 episodes, which means that it will have cost upwards of $20 million per hour to create. I don't... Why? First off, the prequel was unnecessary. Secondly, it was bad and horrifically written and absolutely wrecks the lore to the point where nobody even wants to pretend that it exists. Thirdly, if you just look at the quality of the series and everything you see in it, you ask yourself, where does the $20 million per episode go? It's not like they had a massive cast of super well-known actors in that show that they had to pay millions of dollars to. I don't understand where the $20 million per episode goes. And keep in mind, this does not include the post-production costs. So all of the editing and all of the stuff that they had to put on it, the bells and whistles, all of that doesn't go into this $50 million. So there's more money that was spent on that. And one thing they haven't mentioned at all across all of these seasons is advertising. Because they definitely did some advertising for this show. All seasons of it. So my guess is you're looking at another $50 to $100 million on that. So very quickly, that budget that they're talking about, that $320 million budget that they spent across these shows, is starting to look more and more like $450. And then you have to add on top all the money that they spent for the 3rd season, which was Henry Cavill's last season, where I wouldn't blame him, was phoning it in, and nobody cared because they knew he was leaving the show. So you're looking at, I don't know, another $100 million, $200 million on top of that. So you're looking at $500 to $600 million already spent on this series. And that is assuming that they are not lying about these numbers in any way, and they're actually worse, because as we know, production companies always lie about the amount of money they spent on a series. That's why we know when Disney said they spent X amount of dollars, and then it comes out that later, after tax reimbursements and all the financials actually get revealed because of that, they actually spent a different number. And that number typically is always worse. It's how we know that films like Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, which we thought was profitable for Disney, at least in the slightest, barely broke even. It's how we know that Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which we thought was very popular and very profitable for Disney, actually barely got a decent profit, not even that, and everything else was incredibly worse in terms of the losses. And the worst part about all this is that they are burning all of this money for a show that nobody seems to want to watch. This comes to us from IGN, entitled, "Is The Witcher Season 3 Having Viewership Issues?" I'll answer that question. Yes. The article states there are reasons to believe, however, that there's been a decrease in viewership. For starters, Redanian Intelligence, a popular Witcher news site, crunched some of the Netflix numbers and found that, by their calculations, the first half of the 3rd season suffered a 30% drop in viewership when stacked against Season 2's performance. That is not a number you want to be close to. Almost a third of the audience that watched Season 2 did not want to watch Season 3 at all. They just walked away after Season 2. And the article further states, and it's not just those calculations. Numbers compiled by analytics company Samba TV and obtained by IGN say that 1.1 million people watched The Witcher Season 3's premiere episode in what's called the L+5D data, basically tracking the amount of people who watch it in the first 5 days. According to Samba, that represents a 15% drop from Season 2's premiere. So 15% of people just didn't want to watch the premiere episode. So these are the people that just checked out completely, did not watch the season premiere, had no care. And it gets worse because in this article from Forbes entitled "Each Subsequent Episode of The Witcher Season 3 Dropped Sharply in Viewership" from noted industry cuck Paul Tassi, so it's not exactly like he's not shilling for the industry here. And he states here, however, the more problematic stat is that viewers apparently gave up as the series moved through its 5 episodes. Episode 1, 1.1 million viewers. Episode 2, 893K. 3, 760K. 4, 602K. 5, 505K. So this thing lost half its audience in the first 5 episodes. So not only did it lose actual viewers from the second to the third season, it also lost viewers over the third season, which meant that people just stopped caring about the show, which you think they would care about the show because it's Henry Cavill's last season, season 3, right? So you want to see his performance, see his send-off. But of course, nobody actually cared because these characters are not how they're supposed to be. Not from the books, not from the games. The way, people like Henry Cavill that actually care about the lore, care about the fans wanted them to be, which was the main reason why he walked away from the show. But they are instead some weird fanfic version of these characters in which Lauren Hissrich and the writers want to write their own story rather than just doing The Witcher. And the writing has just gotten worse and worse, and you still have the things that people didn't like from season 1, even though they liked season 1. Things from as meta as, why are there black people in an Eastern European fantasy? Why are they obviously making Anya Charlotta do whiteface for this show to play Yennefer? Because she's definitely not pale like Yennefer is. She's a brown girl. If you're gonna hire a brown actress to play the pale girl, let her be brown. It's almost like you're admitting at that point that it's not a good look, and you did it purely for social credit points. You also have all the lore changes, all the character changes, and now in season 4, you're going to have Lawrence Fishburne playing Regis, which, if you want to know what that looks like, the actor compared to the character, you can just see here. But hey guys, we fixed the terrible looking ball sack armor from the first season that even Lauren Hissrich admitted was a bad idea. So hey, there's something there, right? The whole point to all this is that if nobody is watching this show when Henry Cavill was there, when he was getting his send-off in his 3rd season, and they know all the behind-the-scenes stuff, most of us apparently, about the lore changes and about the fights between Cavill and Hissrich and wanting to be more like the books and the video games versus making whatever the hell Hissrich wants to make. And at the end of the day, just turning out a bad-looking product, nobody's going to want to watch it. Less people wanted to watch it over the course of every season, and now this season, even less people are going to watch it, and nobody is going to be tuning in for season 5, which is where this show is going to end. And it's going to be the worst adaptation of The Witcher, despite the fact that it had all the promise that it could have been something really great. It's just they came to it with the completely wrong perspective. The creators of the show wanted to make it their own fanfic feminist version of Game of Thrones, with massive amounts of race swaps, when in reality, that's not what The Witcher is. It's an epic fantasy where you have monsters that are monsters, and you have good, and you have evil, and there isn't a whole ton of moral ambiguity and grayness all the time. Sometimes it just is what it is. And their failure to understand or even to want to understand The Witcher and produce what The Witcher is why this show is failing, while it will continue to fail, and while it will ultimately be forgettable. But hey, those are just my thoughts on all this. If you have your own thoughts, go and leave in the comments. If you liked this video, go and like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't like this video, I appreciate you watching all of it, and we'll talk to you again later.